What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the labs. Welcome to a very special mod spotlight, something I've been very excited to do about a mod that I'm very excited about. We're going to look today at the mod that adds this fancy tree. It's not a gardening mod, it's not a alternate dimension mod, it is Advanced Rocketry. Now, Advanced Rocketry is a mod all about getting to, being in, and exploiting space. And by space, I don't mean necessarily blackness of space, I mean planets and other things like that. At the moment, it is in version 0.3.1, which is a very early alpha release. They've had two major alpha releases, I believe. One for the core components, which we're going to go over, and one for space stations, which we are also going to go over. Just a quick note that this sky is not from Advanced Rocketry. It was something else I added, just testing. This is our test world. And so, we're going to go over the blocks, all the machines, all the bits and bobs that you need to get into Advanced Rocketry. But before I do that, just a quick disclaimer, I want to point out again that this is very early alpha. Oh, weird. Okay. Alright, so there are some things that don't work. There's a lot that is not in, and there are some things that are actively being developed still. That being said, if you want to go to space with this mod and exploit some of it, you can do that. One of the reasons that I decided to do this and not wait for it to be out longer is because it is fully functional kind of as it is. Well, not fully functional, it's very functional as it is. And it's very stable, and the mod dev is actively squashing bugs. So, this mod is put out by ZMaster587, and I believe somebody called ZeroTheLiger, but that, I can't confirm that for sure. And like I said, it's all about exploiting space. There is a modular-based rocket system in which you can design a rocket to be whatever shape and size you want, really, within the restrictions of the fact that the rocket has to have enough thrust and enough fuel to get off the planet. There's a planetary research system. There are multi-block machines, as we can see many of them here. There is a system that uses satellites to gather information. There's space stations, and there's a lot of really interesting things on the potential roadmap. I'm going to try and remember to put the link for his milestone GitHub in the description, but if you go to the Advanced Rocketry Git to report an issue or anything, definitely check out the milestones list. There are some really cool things in the works. Things like starships, vanity rocket parts, higher tier engines and fuel storage components to make your rockets better. Eventually new solar systems, more satellites with different purposes, like a redstone uplink that lets you do wireless redstone via a satellite, which sounds really cool. Mining satellites and defensive satellites, remote controlled rovers, space probes for deep space collection, for information into warp, and eventually warp engines, and big starships that can get you to other solar systems and things like that. So let's dive on in here. So to start off, why don't we look at what this mod adds for world gen. So we've got copper and tin, and they're broken down parts. Advanced Rocketry adds a series of metals, and they can all be broken down into their secondary powder, much like pulverized materials from thermal expansion, dusts from other mods. Sorry, the names are all escaping me. And they can be cooked into metals and different things. You can use Advanced Rocketry to process your metals that are within the game already. However, other things like you'll see copper and tin are in here, but there is iron, I believe, as well. And you get gold from this, so you look at the dust and you can see what you can process. And you can use that. You can process them using the Advanced Rocketry machines. Now, you really do need to have. I don't know if there's a retro gen per se. We're gonna go over the config in the last episode, but you're gonna be able to use tin and copper ore from any mod. It's ore dictionaried really well. It works fine. Now, rutile, you have to dig and find. Rutile is what you will eventually use to get titanium, and dilithium is what you can use to get these dilithium crystals, which, for now, sorry about that. So for now, are only used in these three recipes, sorry. The space station ID chip the space station builder and or assembler, and the mass detector. Eventually it'll be used in warp drives and things like that, but for now this is kind of all we got. So that is your world gen. Dilithium can only be found on the moon, but the rest of these you should be able to find in your overworld. Now, rutile is used to make titanium, but if you have another mod with titanium, it does show you, or it does, it won't show me that, okay. It does OR dictionary with other kinds of titanium. So let's dig in here. The first thing you want to make yourself is a holoprojector. This is pretty key to using advanced rocketry and to learning how to build all their cool stuff. The holoprojector is pretty easy to make. Just requires some optical sensors, some redstone, and an iron plate. The optical sensors are glass panes, glowstone, and gold plates. Now, like I've been saying so far, this mod is OR dictionaried very well. If you have gold or iron plates from other mods like IC2 or things like that, they do work. However, if you don't have another way of making plates, how do you go about doing that? There's a good reason I have the day-night cycle on, so don't worry about that for now. Let's just make sure my brightness is up. Yep, okay. So, if you don't have a way of making plates without using another mod, then you have to make them in these machines. However, these machines, the rolling machine and the lathes, which we're going to go over in a second, require plates to build. So how do we make our first sets of plates? Well, you got to do a bunch of digging. There's iron, gold, tin, steel, and titanium plates. At least for the iron, gold, and I want to say tin. Was it tin? No, there's one other, steel maybe. Yes, steel. Iron, gold, and steel, you can make it using this. This is the plate presser. So the plate presser is simply a piston with 3 iron ingots underneath it. What you do is you put the plate presser down, and the plate presser will always always go down, facing down. So it doesn't matter where you put it. If I grab another plate presser, it'll always be facing down, right? And then what you do is you put an empty space and a piece of obsidian. This has to be there. This obsidian doesn't. I just had it in my inventory, it was all. So, plate presser, space, and obsidian. You take a block of the metal you want to be turn into a plate, and you give it a bit of a redstone signal. Right? And you can see, voila, 1 plate. So, 9 ingots, 1 plate. Not the best return on investment at all, but it works. It's a good startup. So, the other thing you can do is you can just leave this lever on and right click and go to town. It'll always just plunk down the materials you need. Okay, so that's there forever. That is the plate presser. So you want to get started by making your holoprojector, making your plate presser. What is the function of the holoprojector, you may wonder? Well, if you shift right click it, you get this list of machines. So the machines are the different multi-block structures that you have from this mod. So you select your machine, like the crystallizer for example, and you right click. It's a set distance from you, but eventually you'll see these holographic representations of blocks. If you go hover over them, you can see what they are. Shift scrolling changes the section of the layer of the multi-block you're looking at. So, and if you shift scroll up past the top layer, it'll show you the whole structure. So what we have here is a 2-layer multi-block structure that will eventually form our crystallizer. All right, these are holographic representations. I believe there's a bug right now. I believe there's a bug right now. If you're on a server, it has some issues replacing these blocks sometimes. And what I mean by that is with this hologram up, if I have things like my output hatch here, and I right click on this output hatch, it'll replace the holographic block with the actual block. And this helps you build it really, really, really easily. So what you're going to do is just kind of replace through there. There is also a bug right now where if you're on a server, even on single player, just making sure that if you left click a machine block or some piece of it of this mod with your fist, it just deletes the block. That is a pretty big bug in my opinion, but hopefully that will get sorted out after I report it at the very least. So That's how you go about making your machines. You use the holographic projector, you go through the cross section, you get the materials you need, and you place them in the spacing of those holograms. So, like I said, we'd want to make the rolling machine and the lathe. The rolling machine makes plates out of ingots, and the lathe makes rods out of ingots. So before, in order to make a plate, we needed blocks. We needed 9 ingots. With the rolling machine, you needed 1 ingot per plate. And this is the rolling machine here. So what you can see here is we've got lots of iron plates queued up. If I empty the output queue, we got more going in. You can see that iron ingot come through and get squashed, right? Pretty awesome. Go away, iron plates. So how do we make this? Well, we use our holographic projector to make sure we're building the right blocks. And what you'll see is if I break that, oh, I'm in creative, it goes away. So you'll see that I need to get the rolling machine block here. So this is a completed multi-block structure. I know it works. Once it's done, you just right click on the rolling machine and you can see it forms a structure. We already had power in this flux plug, so it was full on power. We just turn her on and she's good to go. Now, something with these holographic projections that you'll see is all of them. This is the simplest one, the cutting machine. The simplest in the sense that it's tiny. You could argue the lathe is also the simplest, but it's just tiny another way. So all of these though, they have a block called the machine controller block as part of the hologram. This is where it's a little vague because the machine controller block is just kind of a dummy space. So say you're working on the crystallizer, right? The machine controller block is here, but there's no machine controller block to build from the mod. What you have to do is you have to find the corresponding block to your machine. So I'm working on the crystallizer. I'm going to go through here and find the crystallizer. You can just search for it. Crystallizer, there it is. And you can make it pretty simply. User interfaces aren't too bad. Machine structures are plates and rods. Rods can be crafted with shape crafting until you get the lathe. So you're really going to want to push for the lathe, the rolling machine, and the arc furnace as fast as you can. The arc furnace was a little complicated because you have to get into some potion crafting. I hate this recipe. It makes sense. I know what they're going for. I would never say go change your recipe or anything. I just, it was a pain. I made it in my Redux playthrough and it was rough. But you need potions of fire resistance and potions of strength. And then 4 bricks, making 4 heat-proof bricks. But this is a massive structure. What the arc furnace does is it takes power and it takes either blocks of coal and iron to make steel, or it takes sand to give you silicon. It's very slow. So if this is your only way of making steel, you're gonna want that, get that going. If it's your only way of making steel, I highly recommend you make 2 of these because you also need silicon and a good amount of it. So you may want to get both of those going. But all of these machines are easily automated through the input hatches, output hatches, and RF plugs and all that. So let's go over those really quick. The machines are pretty self-explanatory once you get used to the Holoprojector. So every machine will have an RF plug. Pretty much I think every machine does, yeah. RF plugs are made with small batteries and machine structures, right? Machine structure is pretty easy. Small batteries, not too bad. You need tin plates, so you need to get things rolling. I'm pretty sure. So really the first machine you have to make is the rolling machine because you cannot get the tin plates that are required for the RF plug without it, I don't think. To be honest, that seems like a bit of an oversight because if you look at the rolling machine here, it requires an RF plug right here, right? So the only way to make this RF plug is to get these tin plates. So I don't really know how you're expected to do that without having another mod that makes plates. I used IC2 in my playthrough to do it. yeah, it won't work. So that's something that probably needs to be addressed. All right, so I just went and posted that on the Git because that's a pretty major oversight, because the RF plugs are required for every single machine. I said that the crystal or the cutting machine was the most basic. I forgot about the satellite one, so that's kind of the actual most basic, but that's the RF plug. So then you can make the machine structures we've looked at. You can make the input hatches, which are machine structures with chest on the top, and the output hatches, which are machine structures with chest on the bottom. All of the blocks in this mod are in NEI. All of the subcrafting that require the multi-blocks are in NEI. There's handlers for everything. So I may begin to sort of skip over some of the recipes. I'm sorry about that. So let's go over the machines really quick so that we can get on to the next episode and look at getting to space. So we've looked at the blast or the electric arc furnace. This makes steel and silicon, like I said, all automatable with the input and output hatches. This is the rolling machine. It will roll your ingots into plates using all of these different ones here. Like for example, the titanium plate, the only one you can use is the rolling machine. You can't press it down like that. The lathe has one of the coolest animations I've seen. Oh, what the mess? There we go. I've seen in a machine in Minecraft. I love this animation. I don't know why. It's really cool. I don't know if you've ever used a lathe. This isn't exactly what a manual lathe looks like, but this is definitely what an automatic lathe looks like in a lot of ways. It's a really nice model. And then we have the cutting machine, which is used for a few different things. Now, some of these machines, if I remember correctly, you can click on the controller. No, you can't. They all require a toggle switch, but none of them seem to be able to look up recipes that they do. One of the ways that you can see what recipes machines handle is, so you see the cutting machine here, you got to figure out what is crafted by the cutting machine. I know that these silicon wafers are crafted in the cutting machine. From within NEI, you can click on the recipes and it will show you everything that these machines can make. So you really want to get going on your silicon. Silicon buoys are made in the crystallizer with a silicon ingot and a silicon nugget. From there, you take the buoys over to the cutting machine. The cutting machine, you put it on the input. So we'll go ahead and take our buoys here. You'll see it go across. Scary skies. And turn into these silicon wafers. The silicon wafers are used to craft inside of the precision assembly machine, which is another one. So here's our crystallizer I was talking about, right? You take your silicon ingots and your silicon nuggets, put them in here, and the crystallizer goes to town to make these silicon buoys, right? Boom. Awesome. I love all the models. I love the animations. They're great. There's some work texturing that I would like to see happen, but so far everything's awesome. The precision assembly machine. Now this one took me a bit to figure out. You have to have the right amount of, or you have to have them in the right order, I believe, in the same input hatch. You cannot have them in the same, or in several different output hatches, if that makes sense at all. And then what you do is you just turn her on and it should be good to go. There we go. So you put the different items in here you need. For example, to make these basic circuit plates, you need the silicon wafers, redstone, and gold. And it will go through. It's not fast. All the machines are overly fast, but I don't mind that. It kind of makes sense. It goes through and it makes these things. I'm not covering everything these machines do. For example, the crystallizer will also make your dilithium crystals for you. This has some other recipes as well. And like I said, if you want to know what it does, find out, just explore and see if you can find one of the items that is made in this machine in NEI, and then click on the recipes and see what else it can do. All right, so we're going to be going over more of this later. Then we have the planet selector, all this stuff. This is the simplest multi-block I was talking about. It's not even in the Holoprojector. We'll go over that next episode. And the observatory, finally. The observatory, we'll go over how it functions in the next episode, but is another multi-block within the Holoprojector. So that is only machines and basic items. What you're going to need to do is get NEI and kind of go through and make sure that you have all the bits and bobs that you need to build these ahead of time, because oh my gosh, building them in pieces and coming back and forth is really tough. So you'll want to get your Holoprojector, you'll want to do the math and figure out how many blocks of each thing you'll need. Now, before we cap it off though, some of the machines like the observatory, the crystallizer, they're not that strict in how you make them. So the observatory, you can see for example, has some rotating block options. Oops. Right, so these ones are flipping in and out. Basically, it means you got your pick. Any one of these outside blocks can be either a data bus, they can be an RF plug, or a block of iron, right? And so all you do is you scroll through here and you kind of decide how you want to make it. Machine controller, then we got some more options that are rotating through, block of coal, and then, right, it goes up and up and up, and boom, we have our observatory. So here's the thing. In this case, for example, my observatory, let's just break the block. I forgot I was in creative again. Where's my observatory? So I've made it almost entirely out of iron blocks with a single data bus and an RF plug back here. Why have I done that? Well, we'll see next episode, but these data buses are, it's not that important to have lots of them, I can tell you that. Well, it would be really handy, I think, but we'll go over more of that next episode. All right, guys. So next episode, we'll look at what's required to actually get to space, because it's very different. All right. So until next time, guys, I've been Toasty. Let me know if you had any questions about this first part, and stay tuned for the next piece.